And now some news from Sri Lanka, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a two-day state visit. The Prime Minister addressed the Tamil diaspora in Sri Lanka and said that ties on unity need to be strengthened. Earlier, while speaking during Vesak Day celebrations, the Prime Minister took a dig at Pakistan without naming it. He targeted Pakistan by saying that the region needs to isolate proponents of hate who are causing death and destruction in the region. He said, and I quote, "The biggest challenge to sustainable world peace are mindsets and instruments of hate and violence," unquote. This is the Prime Minister's second visit to Sri Lanka in as many years and is aimed at reinforcing the traditional connect between India and Sri Lanka.
In our region is a clear manifestation of this destructive emotion. Sadly, these ideologies of hate and their proponents in our region are not open to dialogue and hence only open to causing death and destruction.
Well, our senior correspondent Padma Rao joins us live from Sri Lanka, where she has been closely tracking all the developments. Well, Padma, would you describe Prime Minister Modi's visit as success this time around? It is his second visit in as many years.
Yes, Prime Minister Modi's visit to Sri Lanka can be termed an overall success because it comes with an entirely different and new message. But right here where I'm standing outside the beautiful Nallur Kandaswamy temple. This is in Jaffna in the northern province, and this is where 70% of Sri Lanka's Tamils actually live. The Tamils here are very different from those whom the hospital was presented to by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So I've come here to find out what people here think, because these people are closer, they have closer links to Tamil Nadu and the southern states of India, and they may have entirely different views of what the Prime Minister is doing in Sri Lanka.
Well, also we saw the Prime Minister interacting with the Tamil diaspora, something that was much looked forward to. So what is the sort of impression that he has made? Well, Padma, if you can hear me, if you can tell us.
On is the people here, the Tamils in Jaffna, who are known as the Elam Tamils. Mind you, that word has nothing to do with separatism, which was the hallmark of the 30-year brutal and bitter civil war. And Jaffna, where I am, was in the heart of that civil war. People here have suffered terribly, and they have, really taken the beating, the maximum beating for those long years of war. Because Jaffna is right in the north. It's linked to the mainland of Sri Lanka only by a very narrow strip of land. So they've been neglected for decades, and I think they are feeling, they may be perhaps, having the impression that Prime Minister Modi is concentrating on the Indian origin Tamils in southern Sri Lanka or in central Sri Lanka, who are not exactly linked to these Tamils and who have actually never borne the direct brunt of the civil war.
Well, the Prime Minister also spoke of tea plantations and common heritage. Can you tell us more about the significance of these statements, really?
But that is a different group of Tamils. They were brought to Sri Lanka in the mid 1800s by the British colonizers to work on the tea plantations. The Tamils up here in Sri Lanka, in the Sri Lanka north, are so-called Elam Tamils. They draw their heritage from South India, from Tamil Nadu predominantly, and from the ancient kingdoms of Tamil Nadu. So these are very different people, and Jaffna has seen massive setbacks during the war, and people, the economy here was ravaged. People were cut off many times during the war, but now things are on the upswing. Things have been improving tremendously. There is peace here. There is relative prosperity or growing prosperity, but there are a raft of issues which still need to be addressed so that the people here can be, happy and within a united Sri Lanka.
Well, you already spoke about the Tamils in Jaffna, but if you can just tell us the sense of mood of the Tamils in Jaffna, where you're right now.
Yes, some of these issues are very crucial to them. There is a sense of outrage, and the people still bear the wounds of the terrible pogroms that happened in the early years, much before the war, which instigated the war. There were terrible riots upon the Tamils. Thousands of Tamils were killed in those riots. Then came the war, and they were cut off repeatedly. Supplies were cut off. So Jaffna led a very isolated life on the island state. But today, what they do expect is greater autonomy and greater self-rule. They don't want to be entirely ruled by Colombo. They want power over their own police, for instance. They want the army to downscale its operations, and they also want the army to release certain lands that were held by the army, that are still being held by the army. But the army, of course, has its own reasons for staying here, and the army argues that they have given back many lands to these people. And of course, there is another reason. Many Elam Tamils, as the people here in the north are called, had left Sri Lanka and fled overseas during the war to seek a better future. Some of them have come back, many of them have not. Nobody here wants any kind of separatism anymore. All they want is self-determination, and they feel that India could play a big role. So Prime Minister Modi, I'm sure, would have discussed that aspect also during his dinner and during his visit to Colombo.
Well, thank you, Padma, for joining us with all that information. We'll continue to come back to you as and when there are important developments there in Sri Lanka.